Hearthstone Global Games is an epic country versus country tournament where teams of 4 cardslingers each clash for national pride.
But in the end, the UK always wins.
Wait, everybody knows it's Germany always wins.
Aren't you Polish?
Is winning all that matters?
It's all about fun.
And getting along with your teammates.
That's easy when their skills are legendary.
Or in this case, you have an ace player who will never let you down.
So we're going to see the same old archetypes then?
No, every team needs to bring all 9 classes.
So we're going to see Hunter?
I wonder.
So let's recap. It's 4 regions, 48 countries, but
only one winner.
Get ready
for the Hearthstone
Global Games.
Hello and welcome to Stage 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games. We're finally here. I am Falcone and I'm joined by Rob Wing. You've come all the way here to come and start Phase 2 off with a bang. How are you feeling, Rob?
Great. I'm excited to be here in the Poland studio. You know, it's one of those things where we're starting off Stage 2, so it's a little bit of West meets more West here as we kick it off.
Well, you know, as far as casting combinations go, we're about as far apart as we can possibly get. Geographically.
Well, I was going to say you have hair. And I don't, so we're...
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You have the hair here, I have the hair here. And
we get there.
A little bit of the hair here too. But yeah, let's take a look at the Hearthstone Global Games format and just locate exactly where we are. Stage 1 is long gone now. That's history. It was a 10-week round robin where half of the teams were eliminated.
Yeah, we're currently down to much less teams now. We've kind of separated the proverbial chaff from the wheat, not to speak ill of the teams who are no longer with us, but we are now in Stage 2 where we have 6 groups of 4 teams. This is going to be a shorter round. We're going to be in a 3-week round robin, so every single game here absolutely matters.
Yep, top 16 teams from Stage 2 are going to progress to a single elimination bracket in a few weeks' time, and then the top 4 will be joining us at a LAN finals. So Stage 2, what do you think changes here at this part of the tournament, Rob?
I definitely, it's one of those situations where I think every team was taking it seriously to an extent, but I think if it's possible, it gets even more serious-er.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where, again, because you're playing every single week, it's not one of those things where you're taking like 2 weeks off at a time. You have to be pretty much like fresh and ready to go up on the meta. Like you have to really know your stuff every single week.
Yeah, as far as casters go as well, it's pretty serious. We've all got our own picks. Almost all of our picks have gotten through. I think all except one. Don't know if we should even go there really. I'll be afraid to return home if I say any more. I think we'll just move on. Let's take a look at the groups in Stage 2 of the tournament. Group A is going to be China, Norway, Singapore, Malaysia. All of them have a fresh 0-0 match record as we move forward.
All right, looking at Group B now, we have the United States, Czech Republic, Belgium, and Israel. This is a tasty group right here. I'm really excited to see what happens there.
Group C, we're going through this at turbo speed. South Korea, Netherlands, Argentina, and Philippines.
At Group D, we have Taiwan, Brazil, Hungary, and New Zealand.
And I have Hungary versus New Zealand as the first game today. As we move on to Group E, Ukraine, Greece, Austria, and Peru. What's it got Ukraine and Austria coming up today?
That's going to be a good one. And in Group F, Canada, my pick to win the whole thing, Italy, Bulgaria, and Mexico.
Yeah. Italy. Right next to each other. That's nice. And there we go. Just like that. That's all of the groups. So,
yeah, so much smaller now than we had before. Obviously, it was pretty much everybody. 48 different countries, now down to just 24.
Yep, and I believe how it's going to work are that the top 2 teams in each group will progress to the next stage, plus the top few that come third in their group.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. And by next week and the week after, we'll have a better idea of which teams are likely to get there and which teams aren't. Let's take a look at today's matches we've got coming up. Hungary versus New Zealand, as I just mentioned. The first game coming up today. You looking forward to that one?
I really am. New Zealand was one of those teams that coming into it, you know, was a big question mark. We weren't really sure what to expect there. You know, if you're outside of New Zealand, maybe the only name you recognize was Pathra, but, you know, they emerged from the Stage 1 with a 4-1 record, so they really put on a good show. Hungary, I know you guys have more familiarity with casting them, so really looking to see what kind of you think of Hungary.
Yeah, well, honestly, before the tournament started, I wasn't a big fan of any of these first 4 teams we're going to see today. Moving on, the next game is going to be Malaysia and Singapore.
That's going to be a good one.
You're looking forward to that one. I know you've got a lot of stuff on these guys. Again, they wouldn't be the teams that jump out at me before we started as, yeah, these guys will get through. But as we move forward, though, Austria, Ukraine, These are the type of teams that you'd expect to see, I think, in Stage 2 of the competition. Team with Game King, Johnny Stone, Wife Coach versus Nyria, Kalento.
Yeah.
That's one of the games I'm looking forward to a lot today.
Yeah, and then rounding us out today is going to be Bulgaria versus Italy. Italy, another one of those stories that coming into this, you were talking about, if you hadn't seen the Hearthstone Global Games up till this point, maybe you wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, these are the powerhouse teams, but Italy put on kind of a clinic in Stage 1.
And Bulgaria as well. Yeah, they won a lot of their games. I think the first few series that they played, they just won all of them. We've had some really great names there come forward, Morgalad being one of them that we've highlighted a lot in the European broadcasts over here.
Yeah, big fan of Best Studio EU as well.
Right.
So, well, he's somebody we saw on the Hearthstone Championship Tour last year.
Yeah. Well, these guys, they're using the Hearthstone Global Games well, I think. If they've made it to Stage 2 of the competition, they're definitely making the most of their exposure, and they're just going to want to keep winning the games. Let's take a look at the first game we got coming up today. Hungary, Exago, Penhadani, Chaincaller, Xair versus New Zealand, Pathra, Ting Ting, Slayermax, and Flamelord. Pathra, I guess, is the biggest name here, or the name that a lot of people will recognize from her stream.
Not only that, she's also kind of the person who stepped up and taken charge of the New Zealand team. She's basically corralling the rest of the boards and saying, hey, these are the decks we're playing. Here's the deck lists. She's basically serving as the infrastructure individual, and she's done it really well. I've had a chance to, you as well, talk to her throughout all of Stage 1, and she's certainly the shot caller in many respects.
Yeah, we've both been there, kind of going around asking the teams questions, and Rob got to Pathra before me this week because when I started messaging her, she said, "Oh, I already spoke to Rob. Here's what I said to him." So
got to be quick on the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other teams, though, some of the other players, Exago and Ting Ting, are the anchors of their teams. So while maybe they're not the most well-known names, they're the guys that have been grinding out the HCT points.
That's a pretty common story in all of the Hearthstone Global Games. A lot of the players you're seeing have experience, whether grinding Hearthstone Championship Tour for points or just open cups in general. Certainly some low-level competition that they're using to kind of leverage to build a name for themselves, get those big finishes, and get a lot of that exposure.
Right, well, let's take a look at how the matchup is going to go today. Rob, do you want to explain the Hearthstone Global Games format for us?
This is something actually Core normally does. I'm gonna get to do this. All right, so buckle up.
Dropped you in it here.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, we got all 9 classes being represented. Each team has to bring all 9 different classes. They'll be playing as you see them lined up on the screen here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if necessary, the ace match there. The ace match player is someone who the team selects to kind of be that clutch person to deliver the series if it comes down to that all-important 5th match. But as you see here on the screen, for those first 4 matches, each player will be bringing 2 different decks. We'll get to select which one they're going to be piloting into their opponent.
That was a really great explanation.
Thank you. I listen to Core a lot. She really has that kind of nailed down. So yeah.
We always struggle with that. It's quite a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just saying everything there. But the first matchup is going to be Chaincaller versus Slayermax. Chaincaller on the Druid or the Mage, Slayermax on the Warrior or the Priest. And it looks like it's going to be Druid versus Warrior.
That is interesting to me. I was doing a little bit of research just recently while I was staying in the hotel waiting for this. And one thing I noticed is that Hungary in the first 5 weeks used Mage every single time. That was the one class they'd picked all 5 times that they'd played. So this is for the top 24 teams. I kind of went through and saw what they were playing. They were very high on Mage. So to see them not go with Mage in the beginning of Stage 2, they're definitely switching it up.
Yeah, that's actually really surprising. You said that to me just before the broadcast started. Hungary have played Mage every time. I expect them to keep playing Mage. Well, there you go. Spanner in the works already. As we see, Hungary have, 3 of the Hungarian players have grouped up together. That's always great to see.
It's great, and I actually think it really does give teams an advantage.
Yeah.
We've seen that a lot for the Southeast Asian teams. Obviously, the geography allows them in smaller countries, to, at least in size, to kind of get together more easily. And, when you're communicating with your fellow teammates, and it's not necessarily just through voice comms, you have the body language, you have the ability to see, the faces of your teammates. It makes it a lot easier to just communicate in a very limited amount of time.
Yeah. As always, Hearthstone Global Games is a team tournament. Every series you watch, you're going to find that the players are communicating, whether they are in real life together, as we can see Team Hungary there, or whether they're just using other forms of communication. They're always playing together. Now, Warrior and Druid. I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of these classes, because we've had DreamHack last weekend.
Right.
And Druid really surprised me when I looked at the numbers in the top 16, because 10 of the players brought Jade Druid, and I think 2 of the players brought Token Druid.
That's not super surprising to me. DreamHack Austin, actually, a few months ago, we had a lot of people bringing Jade Druid, and it was one of the most banned out classes.
Right.
Jade Druid, obviously, extremely polarizing. in that it just destroys most of the time. Zump, if you're watching, obviously the rule doesn't apply to you, but it destroys a lot of the control classes because it has that finality of we just make increasingly larger Jades and you can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, we can see in front of us right now, Hungary have decided to bring the Jade Druid today. I guess it depends whether you're living in a control meta or whether you're living in an aggressive meta. Although I would say that one of Jade Druid's weaknesses is going to be the deck that New Zealand are playing right here, the Pirate Warrior. Chaincaller would have been hoping to see Taunt Warrior there.
I actually think the value of Pirate Warrior lately has really kind of skyrocketed, at least on ladder.
Yeah.
As we've seen Burn Mage become more popular, we've seen Jade Druid again start coming out a little bit more as opposed to Aggro Druid. It kind of just runs them over with the right start there. Evaluating what we have here, we see the Fiery War Axe in the opening hand is always really solid if you're expecting to have to do minion combat early on. Obviously the Jade saying there won't necessarily be a ton of that. You're going to have to kind of pick off the early Jades, but it's nowhere near as intense as it would be against the Aggro Druid. The South Sea Captain, obviously very appetizing if you can just go ahead and get that out, have the Patches shoot out as a 2-2, and then the Blood Cell Cultist to buff the weapon. So this is actually a pretty solid start that leads into pretty big weapon building potential.
Yeah, just a little bit disappointing that this upgrade is an upgrade and not an Azoth's first mate. That would have just nicely finished off the curve here. That being said, on turn 3 or turn 2, Slayermax can coin out South Sea Captain, get the 2-2 patches, and that can have quite a large impact on the board, though that's not going to matter here as Chaincaller doesn't have anything to put on the board yet.
That was one thing I was kind of surprised by in the mulligans was that Slayer Max went ahead and got rid of the Frothing Berserker on the coin. That's oftentimes something you'll see capped.
Right.
If it's actually on the coin. Now, the South Sea Captain is arguably better against the Jade Druid because you're not expecting a lot of the minion combat, which would traditionally buff the Frothing Berserker, and it's that 3-drop you can coin out. Really just expecting to see him just jam that here. Odds are one of the pirates survives, then you can go straight into buffing up the weapon with the Blood Cell Cultist if you want to, or kind of decide, okay, I want to get that value on the Fiery War Axe.
Yeah, it's looking like a really nice start, actually. That weapon looks like it's going to grow a lot. It is a little bit awkward that he's going to be upgrading this weak weapon so much. I agree, maybe it's worth playing the Fiery War Axe, but then when the opportunity presents itself to play the Blood Cell Cultist on curve with a pirate already on the board, I don't know if you can pass up on that. This is where Slayer Max would really love to have the Frothing Berserker.
It's also sometimes you kind of just ignore the weapon buffing aspect so much and just think, do I want to put a 3-4 on the board? Which, with the board you already have, if South Sea Captain sticks, a 4-5 pirate, the odds of the Druid getting rid of it, especially when they haven't ramped just yet, not particularly high. Actually, Hungary has the opportunity here to go ahead and just full clear the board if they want to invest the Innervate, Wrath, and Feral Rage, but they would be giving up a lot. And at this point,
1 mana after playing Innervate, which is a disaster.
It is certainly one of those situations where you're investing a lot to get this done.
Yeah, definitely going to go with the Wrath here. That makes a lot of sense. They have to get rid of the South Sea Captain before it buffs more minions out of control. And yeah, Innervate's going to come down, going to get rid of Patches as well. That feels like such a weak turn from Chaincaller, but it was also necessary. Now, Slayer Max is going to feel better about just equipping the Fiery War Axe, I think.
I don't think you can really ever play too cautiously against Pirate Warrior.
No.
I mean, that's when you think about, okay, how do I lose this matchup? A lot of times it just comes down to, trying to, as the Jade Druid, play a little cheeky, and then the Pirate Warrior just runs you over.
So Slayer Max has just picked up this Arcanite Reaper, which I think changes things a little bit. Whereas before he may have considered playing the Fiery War Axe, playing the upgrade, buffing up that weapon. Now he's got the Arcanite Reaper, he might want to wait and buff that up later on down the line, which means playing the Blood Cell Cultist now, without buffing a weapon, is acceptable.
Yeah, get that 3-4 on the board, as I was talking about earlier. Could have just played the Fiery War Axe and just looked to get the swings over 2 turns, but investing the mana into the body, at this point making that 3-4 is just much better in terms of overall damage production. So, turn 4 as well, he has that Naga Corsair, so he's going to be able to get some value. What do you think about just taking that Naga Corsair, applying it, and then swinging the last of the weapon into the 2-2 Golem?
It just works out perfectly, doesn't it? The Pirate deals with the Jade Spirit, weapon deals with the Jade Golem, and just board's nice and clear, ready for you to put your Arcanite Reaper down and start upgrading it next turn. It is a shame that Slayer Max has picked up so many weapons. Like, no N'Zoth first mate on turn 1, but 2 Fiery War Axes and Arcanite Reaper. He's going to struggle to get all of these things down onto the board.
I like the read of not actually making that trade there into the Jade Spirit, because to the point you just made, he's got so many weapons, he realizes he has just a lot of just straight damage.
Yeah.
Are you really... Earthen Scales is maybe the only thing that comes out, and potentially... you get more value out of this Jade Spirit, but does it really change anything on the board in terms of trade equations? Which realistically it doesn't. No. Double Earthen Scales does, But I like it, just realizing, okay, I have so much damage coming down the tube that it's just better to just start pushing it with what I have on board.
No, you're right. That did make more sense. And now
Ooh.
quite rewarded here, I think, because one pirate sticks to the board. That can deal another 3 damage. Arcanite Reaper going to be dealing 5 to the dome here. I mean, Chaincaller's going to struggle now.
You could at least, so one thing you could look at doing here is put down the Fiery War Axe and then put down the second Bloodsail Cultist, and that buffs it down to a 4-3. You get another body going on board. And from what you can see on board, it doesn't look like the Druid can really contest 2-3-4s very well.
Right.
I don't mind that. You're missing out on 1 damage from the Arcanite Reaper, but I actually just like this better.
Yeah, going to go for it. It looks like, I think it's quite a hard decision to make whether you want to start getting this huge Arcanite Reaper down and getting the value with it, or whether you want to contest the board. And he's gone for the board strategy like you described. Going to be rewarded for it right now. Is he gonna? No. Okay, I was gonna say, is he gonna start trading now? Nope. That Jade Spirit just poses no threat whatsoever. Even with an Earthen Scales, it doesn't allow it to make a clean trade. So I like this a lot. And Chaincaller's just gonna have to nourish here. Things looking very, very good for the Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, the lack of ramp here, this is really one area where this type of Druid deck can just fall behind, is not getting the ramp. One of the most powerful things they do, obviously, is just skip to the later turns. The Primordial Drake is just a huge wall, even if it doesn't like just tear apart the Pirate Warrior's board. So going to have to play this honestly. Nourishes for mana here because he does actually want to go ahead and just get that Primordial Drake online next turn. I don't hate it. I really don't, because what were you going to draw with the Nourish that was going to be better than a Primordial Drake?
The only question I'm asking is it going to be enough? The Jade Spirit survives, which actually could make a huge difference, because next turn, Chaincaller can either trade Jadecaller. That's what he's doing right now, right? He can trade it into the Pirate and then play the Drake to clear everything. Alternatively, the weapon will deal with it, which means it's saved him 4 extra health. Slayer Max's weapon will deal with the Jade Spirit, and then he hasn't taken 4 damage from the weapon that turn. So it's win-win situation here. The Earthen Scales did a lot of work.
Yeah, and I like that Slayer Max has really been consistent in his line. He's constantly been willing to trade with the axe while he's continuing to pressure with the actual minions to preserve their health and make it difficult to trade into them with, maybe get something like a swipe there, make a rat. Just make these minions as durable as possible. And the Pirate Warrior minions are not particularly durable at this stage in the game, so protecting their health total is something I like a lot. And Slayer Max at this point, considering kind of how all in he wants to go, realizing that if you just saw Chaincaller Nourish, it's probably because there's a Primordial Drake coming down on the other end.
Look at that as well. Sacrificing the Fiery War Axe to equip the Arcanite Reaper so that next turn he can play it and he can hit with it and play Upgrade and attack with Leroy.
All right. Zosfer's definitely not what you want at this point in the game with the axes you have, but I still like the rest of his hand here. He still has a lot of gas going for him.
So how exactly does he play this turn? He can play Leroy and trade that, leave 2 1-1s on his opponent's side of the board, hit face with the Arcanite Reaper. No, it makes more sense to trade with the weapon, so upgrade the weapon, trade that and the Pirate in.
I don't think you necessarily show the upgrade.
Oh, that's true. If
there's no reason to.
Then you'd get punished by that play. So
it also, kind of one of the more low-key points of it is you're not showing a card in your hand. Yeah. So your opponent thinks he has to possibly play around Mortal Strike. It just causes some degree of disruption because you're saying, well, you don't know what I have here. Whereas the upgrade just makes it very plain and doesn't change any of the math on that trade.
Yeah. Frustrating thing here, I think this is why I was looking at doing it the other way around, is that the Leroy is just going to die anyway, unfortunately. The 2 1-1s are going to deal with that. Not that it looks like a problem. Hungary needs to pick something up right now.
Ooh, Innervate is a dead draw there.
If he can pick up maybe a second Primordial Drake, a Jade Behemoth even.
Yeah, something with the word taunt on it. Earthen Scales, ooh.
It's got the word armor on it.
No, we need taunt. We don't need this armor. This is the hero whelp, the whelp of ages. His coming was foretold.
Yeah, saving his body there.
Yeah. No, I'll deal with this, Leroy.
Well, gonna be on 12 health at the end of this turn, Hungary.
I mean, it's not a good play, but I absolutely think you want any health you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, the trade-off here is you can get rid of Leroy whether or not you use the Earthen Scales, and then you think, okay, if I draw Jade Behemoth or Primordial Drake, I get more health.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you are living life off the top of your deck. That Innervate came at absolutely the worst time.
How safe are you on 10 health here? 5 attack weapon. I guess Heroic Strike on its own isn't lethal. Mortal Strike on its own isn't lethal, so I don't
Upgrade and then 4 damage. Upgrade, that'll do it.
Yeah, that will do it. But that's that'd be having to play around 2 cards.
Yeah.
So you kind of accepted, you know, you can play around 1. I'm safe. Leroy's gone. I'm safe with the 4 health.
I would have, honestly, Earthen Scales there, I understood the reason for using it and not using it. Like, how do you actually win this game?
Yeah.
And at some point, you're probably going to need a taunt minion to get buffed, or just something where you get more value out of that. But still, Slayer Max proving that he's all killer, no filler.
Yeah. So New Zealand going to take the first game. Very good. I'm going to have to get used to this.
What?
The puns and the...
Yeah. The certain level of cringe that you would come to expect. That's why we were brought together to kick off stage 2. The best of both teams. Falcone wing.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah.
Rip
But,
Poro.
Rip. There's like a
UK
way
casters.
longer list for the UK casters.
That's
but,
true.
Rip, unfortunately, their chain caller.
Yeah.
Pirate Warrior did exactly what it was supposed to do there, which, got its good matchup against a much slower deck. And to be fair to Chain Caller really didn't necessarily have what he wanted there in terms of the ramp and the ability to get into those big taunts.
We said right from the start, one of the Jade Druid's weaknesses is the Pirate Warrior, so New Zealand rewarded for that pick. But next up, it's going to be Exego on the Shaman versus Ting Tong on the Paladin. Now, again, gonna have another look at my little DreamHack stats I've got going on here. And Paladin, we've had more of a control-y trend over the last few weeks, but at DreamHack, it's been a nice mix of everything. I think we had 4, in the top 16 that is, we had 4 control Paladins, 4 mid-range Paladins, and 4 of the really aggressive aggro Murloc Paladins.
Well, the DreamHack rule seems to be, mind you, it's last hero standing, so it works a little differently, is that the greedier your control Paladin deck is, the better.
Right.
This doesn't work on ladder. Realistically, yeah, Control Paladin actually got some way better tools, this N'Zoth package, than it has had in the past with the Year of the Mammoth. But generally, if you go to play this deck on ladder, you're just going to get run over a lot.
Yeah.
But in DreamHack, it totally works. So yeah, if you're living in that DreamHack world, I believe now that the teams had to submit their decks before DreamHack.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday.
Yeah.
So they maybe saw the beginning part of DreamHack, but they won't have seen the top 16, I guess.
Right, and when it comes to the Hearthstone Global Games, because of the way this all works out, and you need to bring 9 decks, a lot of times when it's like, well, what do we bring? Unless you have somebody who's just an expert at all 9 decks, you're looking at community resources, you're looking at what's going on in the tournament scene, and you're thinking like, for example, George C's Burn Mage. It comes out, him and Muzzy are using those lists, and then suddenly everyone's like, oh, I'm just bringing Burn Mage to Global Games. So it's very interesting. I think, to your point, some of the early DreamHack decks may have been a factor.
Yeah, I mean, the teams definitely will have been studying it.
Yeah.
The thing for us to bear in mind is that the Control Paladin decks were the most successful. They were the decks that were winning the games, the more aggressive ones, not so much.
Now, that said, running into Shaman, that definitely throws a wrench into the works, because Shaman goes wide on the board so often, and you only have so many tools to deal with the board as a Paladin, so it's kind of the question of, okay, when can I commit my premium removal? And if I don't, am I going to get bloodlusted out of the game? Because at this point, Token Shaman really has kind of taken over as the premier Shaman deck.
Yeah.
You may see Jade Spirit Echo Shaman every so often, but from what we've been seeing mostly lately, it's definitely that Token Shaman.
Again, I don't even need to tell you the DreamHack stats from that. Everyone knows that the Token Evolve Shaman, that's the popular one at the moment. From my experience, the Control Paladins are pretty good against the deck because they've got Pyromancers, sometimes Doomsayers, Consecrations, Drakes.
But we see here it's not going to be it. Yeah. Grimscale Chum is pretty much the telltale sign that this deck is more aggressive. We're going to see some Divine Favors, possibly even some Murloc Oracles or Bluegill Oracles, depending upon how aggressive this deck truly is.
So it's going to be a very fast fight for the early game board that we're going to see here.
Yeah, and one card that I want to call out as being super impactful for this that Hungary may want to look into getting in the opening mulligan is Maelstrom Portal.
Yeah.
You actually, Grimscale Oracle and Grimscale Chum, just pretty much get blown out by that. You get to destroy those and then put your own minion on the board. But beyond that, Maelstrom Portal actually loses a lot of value unless you go into the Devolve combo turn.
Well, exactly, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up. Maybe Exego considers keeping Devolve in the hand because it does such a good job at getting rid of the Murloc synergy. Yep, there it is. No Maelstrom Portal yet, though.
Yeah, that is an important point. Is the strength of the Murloc package is based on the synergies that come out from the Tribal. So it's one of those situations where Devolve doesn't care about that. Devolve just says, nah, you're a Wisp now. You don't get those buffs anymore. So I really like the Devolve keep there, and I think that's very heads up for what you can expect to run into for most Paladins.
Yeah.
And again, the players don't have the lists, so they don't know. But more often than not, you're seeing at least some Murloc synergy in the Paladin decks that you're running into.
Yeah, I think it's just too risky to throw it away. Because then if it is a Murloc Paladin, or an aggressive Paladin rather, you get rewarded so much. Another thing worth noting, both of these teams passed up on Rogue. Makes a lot of sense if they're expecting their opponents to be bringing a more aggressive deck. You don't want to be bringing Quest Rogue. against an Evolved Shaman, really, or an Aggro Paladin.
Yeah, Rogue's certainly a bit frail in certain matchups, and we saw that actually, we keep talking about DreamHack. Obviously, we were both watching a fair bit of it, but Rogue did not fare super well outside of that series with Zixo, where it was just pretty much all Quest Rogue all day.
So what are Team Hungary going to be thinking here? Do I play one Firefly or two? Or the Firefly and the Elemental? Is it worth using the coin here? There's no follow-up on turn 2 apart from just hero power.
Well, you did see that the Grimscale Chum did buff a Murloc.
Yeah.
So there's a buffed Murloc sitting in hand. I don't know that I necessarily like the coin into the Flame Elemental. I think you have the Jade Lightning on 4, which is a consideration as to why you'd keep your coin so that you can use it on 3. I just think some of your better tools, and maybe some of the stuff you're going to draw into your deck, is better than just a Flame Elemental on this turn.
Yeah, I agree with you. So you definitely drop the Firefly, but even just coining out Stonehill Defender on turn 2, I think is better use of the coin. Yeah. Maybe you can pick up a Tar Creeper from that and keep the curve going.
Yeah, I mean, the one consideration as to why you might actually just play the coin there is you just say, okay, I have the Devolve. It might just be a situation where I have to early Devolve. Maybe they go face. Maybe I can get some value trades on Wisps.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Ooh, that's a pretty sick draw right there. Going to allow New Zealand to just go wide on the board with Murlocs if they want to.
But it's going to be such a juicy Devolve from Exego here.
You did see one card was kept.
Yeah. But you'd probably expect it to be Maelstrom Portal rather than... If you think it's going to be a board clear, that's the one I think you...
I think you could go either way on that one. You could say Maelstrom Portal, you could say Devolve. I think both are pretty much keep worthy. And yeah, this is...
It's so good here. Turn them both into Wisps.
Yep. And now the Paladin, as is traditional with this style of deck, has invested so many resources into the early board that we're looking at a Hydrologist, a Blessing of Kings, and a Gentle Megasaur. So the hand size much reduced. Not that it can't still get work done. It absolutely can. But we'll have to see how this ends up panning out over the next couple turns. What do you like on this Secret here?
So there's no Getaway Kodo, though you don't necessarily want to play the value game against an Evolved Shaman. It's Redemption or Noble Sacrifice. There's no point in taking Repentance whatsoever. I don't think there are any minions that actually have more than 4 or 5 health in that deck.
I know it seems kind of small, but since you have that Wisp on board and you have Blessing of Kings next turn, and you have the 1/1 damaged Elemental on the other side, I kind of just like taking Noble Sacrifice and trying to prep the board for, maybe making that Wisp bigger, making another minion bigger. But I think board combat right now is more important than any kind of value game.
Yeah. I think the Noble Sacrifice is most often the correct one in this sort of matchup, unless you're going into a Tyrion turn or something like that, then you take the Redemption. But I agree with you. I think Noble Sacrifice is probably the pick. Ting Tong and Team New Zealand taking their time here. Gonna go with the Redemption.
I mean, it is going to help you preserve board.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the different ways you could have gone about it with Noble Sacrifice versus the Redemption there.
Thing is, Exego has to play around Noble Sacrifice because that's the obvious pick as well.
Right.
That's something he'll be considering. Maybe Exego will make a bad trade because it's there. And he can play Gentle Megasaur next turn, buff up this Murloc, and maybe get a lot of value because the Redemption's there.
Sure. See, they're Hired Gun, Shield Bearer, and Abomination, so this is not really in terms of what you'd be expecting to see normally as the really sweet Stonehill Defender, but Hired Gun does fit into the curve pretty well. A-Bomb could be super useful as a board clear if things do start getting janky again. I really like Hired Gun or A-Bomb there for different reasons.
Not quite Tar Creeper though, is it, that Hired Gun? It's not exactly what you want. Abomination... Problem is with Abomination is that it clears your own board as well. As the Shaman, you're just as likely to have a board full of tokens.
No, absolutely. It would be kind of the panic button.
Yeah.
But I don't think you necessarily want to get into that situation where you're forced to hit the panic button. You just want to keep going on board.
Right. So, Gentle Megasaur or Blessing of Kings. Megasaur has the potential of getting more value later on, especially after that hero power button has been pressed a few more times. But is he ever going to be able to develop that much more of a board?
Worth noting, too, that since you've seen it evolve, I think the value on Blessing of Kings right now goes up because it's unlikely that the second one is in there, and obviously Devolve just completely destroys Blessing of Kings by Grid Steed, so I kind of like just going with the Blessing of Kings here and then waiting to have more Murlocs before you go for that Gentle Megasaur.
I think the Blessing of Kings is slightly riskier, but I think it's definitely got a much higher reward if this thing sticks to the board, because now Gentle Megasaur can be used later and get more value. And Gentle Megasaur, just Wind Fury alone now would be a huge swing or a huge ton of damage.
Yeah, this certainly is weaker to, say, Hungry Crab off the top if you expect your opponent. You do see it, sometimes Shaman, maybe not as much. It's certainly more prevalent in, say, Hunter, but if you thought there was any chance you were going to get Hungry Crab, obviously this play just gets demolished by Hungry Crab.
Yep.
It's the biggest crab in the history of the world.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that Hungry Crab at all if I was Exego right now.
Plays around the Jade Lightning really well, too,
Yeah.
because that's certainly something whenever you go into turn 4 against the Shaman, you're thinking, well, Jade Lightning is online. That is just a tempo play that could potentially cause me issue. But yeah, this has really put down a difficult board for Exego to deal with.
I think it's time for him to go wide. It looks like, because he could have considered the Hide Gun and maybe played the Firefly, but gonna be the Hero Power plus both of those 1-drops there.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah.
That's something to consider. And the Sunkeeper Tarim turns that are potentially coming up for New Zealand, that really usually benefits you as the Shaman because you tend to go even wider on the board than the Murloc Paladin.
You can turn that card completely useless. Now, New Zealand picking up Cold Light Seer, just the Hero Power plus Cold Light Seer looks like such a strong turn here. You buff up the Hydrologist even more. You get a Hero Power token that's likely to stick to the board, and you're setting up Gentle Megasaur for later.
Yeah, and then next turn you just look to Hero Power Gentle Megasaur right there.
Yeah.
So I definitely like that. I was trying to think if there's anything you got on this turn for the Megasaur that just made it like an insane play, but maybe like the Giant Health.
Right.
Again, you have already seen one devolve, so the odds of that second evolve being in there with 22 cards left in the deck is not great, but I think this is just overall, most of the time, a way stronger play.
Yeah.
Respects the curve a lot more, too.
Again, it's pretty much just the only thing you'd want from Gentle Megasaur here would be that Wind Fury just to start dealing the damage. But when your opponent's still on 30, it just doesn't seem like it rewards you that much. You've still got Redemption down on Ting Tong's side as well, which means that Gentle Megasaur is very likely to get a lot of value next turn. Sunkeeper Tarim even could be acceptable if Exego finds a way of dealing with this Hydrologist.
So Ting Tong chose to trade there, obviously had 6 damage, which is a pretty healthy total now with that Blessing of Kings on the Murloc, but I like that he's understanding that this is a situation where the way you lose this game is by losing the board.
Yep.
So don't give more value to Flame Tongue Totem, don't allow for more hijinks, just pretty much you're developing the bigger board, and that's going to be your play in the next few turns. Just go ahead and chase him off the board, and then you can actually, if you want to, and you see the opportunity, use Tarim.
Yeah.
So I really like that read from Ting Tong, because I think for a lot of people, it's hard to just toss 6 damage into a 1-2.
And by making those trades, the Flame Tongue Totem was left kind of... So if Hungary did play the Flame Tongue Totem, he wouldn't quite have been able to kill the Hydrologist. It would have been one-off lethal for the card. So Ting Tong just trying to make this thing stick. Been rewarded. The Jade Claws could have gotten rid of the Hydrologist there, along with the Flame Tongue Totem. But Exego decided not to go that way. Had to play around Redemption. No
Getaway
sacrifice
Kodo.
still, I think, as well. I don't think he'd gotten an attack in yet.
No, I don't think he'd done that. I also had to play around Getaway Kodo, and you don't want to give them the Hydrologist again.
Right.
Yeah. Rockpool Hunter is also... Yeah, I like that just strictly better than the Hero Power here for a number of reasons. And then get that Megasaur down, see what you get. Shaman, obviously, this style of deck is really good at just getting back on the board.
Yeah.
And Flame Tongue Totem helps in a big way. Just uptrade those small, kind of puny minions and help them do great things. But, all right, what are you looking for on a Gentle Megasaur here?
Wind Fury or Health would be the 2 that I'd be tempted for. I guess you could go attack, but then you're actually quite likely to lose your board because you can't clear everything.
Right.
If you go Wind Fury, you can clear the whole board. If you get Health, you can clear most of it, but it doesn't matter too much that they survive. Unfortunately, he doesn't get either of them, but Divine Shield and +1/1 both look good too.
Yeah, Liquid Membrane less so, but I like Divine Shield here.
It's only really Jade Lightning that Liquid Membrane plays around, I think.
Okay, so realizing, he's got the Divine Shield up, it's going to take a lot to deal with these Murlocs. Now he does feel like he could start pushing damage.
And Hungary have to wonder what this card's done New Zealand's handed as well, because it's been there for a little while. What if it's a Murloc War Leader? What if it's a second Gentle Megasaur? It could be a disaster.
I don't think you know exactly what that card is, but I think you can make a couple of reads, and I think Sunkeeper Tarim is certainly on the top of your list of what you think it might be.
Okay.
Because you've seen turns where, you saw the Megasaur come down, you saw the Rockpool Hunter come down, you were thinking, okay, Rockpool Hunter came off the top.
Yep.
Clearly that was going to be a Hero Power if it wasn't the Rockpool Hunter. So I definitely think you are pretty comfortable assuming that it's Sunkeeper Tarim, or I don't think this style of deck actually really runs Tyrion, so no Raglight Lord, no Tyrion, potentially.
No, way too aggressive for that. Maybe they sometimes run Tyrion at the top end, but
Yeah.
I don't think it would even have space for a Spike Rich Steed.
Well, I think it's like, what is this list? It's like 8 1-drops. It's a lot. It commits really hard to the early game.
Yeah. It does a job. It has a specific purpose, and it's doing it well in this game. As
And
Mexico
so,
not going to be able to clear much of this board.
He's going to try, though, and this is I mean, it's what he has to do. That's how this deck wins, is just through owning the board.
Now, the ball is in Ting Tong's court here as to whether or not he's going to want to start trading things away.
I think with that Burn Bristle pickup, you are definitely not trading anymore. You have the wall up there, and you're just you're going. You can push 8 damage this turn.
Bloodlust does pretty much nothing.
On the other side here, trading, I mean, with the 2-3 at least, you're getting something off the board, and you continue to populate your board while diminishing theirs a little bit, and continue to make Tarim like basically feel like an okay thing over time.
This changes everything.
But pushing that 6 damage is just really important. There's a devolve off the top.
This changes everything. Look at how weak this board has gotten. It's not that bad. Decent 2-drop, decent 1-drop there, the Valfin Inquisitor. So I've seen worse devolves from that position, I think. As it looks like Tarim is just going to be pretty solid from Ting Tong's side next turn to come back.
Did the Rockpool Hunter turn into a Vile Inquisitor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just basically like, what was it, Final Fantasy Tactics back in the day, just changing jobs. Used to be a hunter, now I'm an Inquisitor.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, not so bad. At least you're still a Murloc. Some things are just really like weird changes.
I mean, I don't know the exact stats on this, but a lot of the 2-drops have 1 health. And a lot of the 1-drops obviously have 1 health as well. The fact that he's managed to get a 1-3 and a 2-3 in those spots is very good. And Murloc War Leader,
I mean, it's not quite the nuts draw. You have 1 Murloc on board. Right. Yeah, it helps you get through Hired Gun. But you need to clear off more of this board because now I think your new win condition is try to get the board back and then go with Tarim.
Yeah.
Because your mighty board is now much felled, and I think that was like another reason when I was thinking back to those turns. Aside from just pushing 6 damage is good, it's just you kind of have to go fast because if that Devolve came out, Devolve was pretty much just 100% the fresh maker there.
If New Zealand can make this Murloc War Leader stick, which it looks like they have a good chance of doing, they're just going to be spitting out 3 2s every single turn. It's much better than Tarim here because he doesn't want to be buffing that Healing Totem and the Taunt Totem and the Flame Elemental.
Well, okay, so if you were to play Tarim, just humor me for a second here. You trade out the Taunt Totem with the 2-3, and then you would Tarim the Inquisitor, kill the Hired Gun anyway, which you were going to lose.
Yep.
The major difference is you end up with the War Leader on board versus a 3. You end up with the War Leader and a 3-2 token as opposed to a 3-7 with Taunt, and the other minions are much smaller. So yeah, this is just objectively much better, no matter how you look at it.
I don't think there was quite as much in it as I thought initially, after hearing your assessment of how the board would look in the end.
It's important, it's one of those things where it's you can very easily look at a board and just make a snap judgment.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something you have to do, is just slow it down and actually figure out what would this look like if you made the trades. Yeah.
I do that all the time while playing. I'm all about the snap judgments.
Oh, and I was watching streams like all weekend. I was watching Mid-Season Brawl. I was watching the DreamHack Grand Prix for Hearthstone. So I'm just sitting there like kind of half paying attention. I'm like, I guess we just hit him in the face.
I play way too many games like that.
Yeah. And it's like, why did I lose that? Wow, because I misplayed like 8 times.
Now Exigo, he's got Stonehill Defender, so he's got a Taunt if he needs it, but that just feels like such a low value play. And if you don't then pick up a Taunt that you can play with it, then you're wasting so much mana. I do prefer the Aya, but his health is getting low. 8 damage on board, 13 health total.
This might be the Tarim turn now.
It does buff up that token, make it quite the threat.
Well, you clear some things first, play some more things, and then get your Tarim going. Yeah, he's thinking about it. He's basically like, okay, I would get rid of some of the smaller stuff. The big change is that it brings Aya to 3-3, so is that enough? I think at this point, though, the consideration is you want the 3-7 and you want the bigger board.
If he did Tarim and go face with everything, then that's 10 damage.
Yeah, it is. You're knocking on the door, but you're still leaving up a lot of minions.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, something like Bloodlust, it's not lethal, but it suddenly just has the ability to clear the board. And at this point, once you're off the board, you're off the board. You're not coming back onto it.
I'm just trying to work out what New Zealand's pickups for lethal could be next turn if they do put Hungary down to 3.
One thing to note too is you Tarim and then you play the Cold Light Seer to get the extra health on the Murloc. So yeah, I'm saying Tarim Cold Light Seer here.
Very similar play. You're gonna just play it safe, make the trades. But
this also works too, because realistically the Tarim's probably gonna block a lot of this damage, and then you can get the Cold Light Seer buff on the next turn. So got a little caught up in the Cold Light Seer hype, but.
So Ting Tong is saying here, Exigo, where's your 3rd Devolve?
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with this? And I don't know. I don't think Hungary are going to find a way. Secondary Bruiser is a nice 3-mana taunt there. Is White Eyes just better though? Yeah, of course it is.
In this situation, yeah, White Eyes is... It's not even from like a value perspective, it's just in terms of the stats you get and how you use your mana this turn. Yeah, one thing about the token shaman style of deck is that the individual pieces are not necessarily super stellar. Devolve is highly valued in this matchup, but if you never find the Evolve and you never find the Bloodlust, this deck is not very powerful.
Look, just want to point out, Exego opting to pick the secondary Bruiser there just so he can fit in a hero power as well. So, hoping to get a Taunt Totem, I guess. Spell damage is fine, kind of.
I mean, that's the interesting point because, yeah, from a trade perspective, the 5/5 doesn't necessarily make it better than a 4/5 for what you're getting. You're not getting more health. And yeah, the potential for a Taunt Totem is certainly big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rallying Blade, that would have been the pickup for lethal. Obviously, there's a taunt in the way, so it wouldn't quite have made it.
That is a big board.
Yeah.
No Devolve just feels amazing.
Good luck getting past this wall. Look at those hero power tokens, are 5/6s now. War Leader plus Tareem plus Cold Light Seer.
I think this is just one-off lethal. Yeah, 5/6. Yep, 5/6, 5/6. And then you put him down to 1.
Yeah, there's not quite any way of dealing 4 direct damage to the Stonehill defender, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out if there's any smarter way to sequence the trades there.
No, I didn't think so. You just put the 5 attack stuff in. Still continuing to play it safe. He realizes there is no way that Exego deals with this board. It's just not possible.
There's no Kazakus potion. There's no twisting nether. There's no random thing that's just going to blow up your board. So as long as you keep the shaman mostly off the board and basically make Bloodlust a non-factor.
You say that, but we are at 10 mana and Yogg-Saron does exist. So.
Oh, not in Paladin decks, it doesn't.
Well, there you go. Ting Tong going to take game number 2 for New Zealand. Very nice early lead for this team now as we head into the 3rd game of the series.
Yeah, it's worth noting, New Zealand won their group. This was not, a team. Some of the teams, when you look at the match records, we actually had teams that were like 12-11 or like 10-10, but New Zealand actually had like a really good match score. They won their group. They're a team that's really seemed to have come together now through stage 1.
Yeah, I mean, we've both spoken to Pathra a lot. We've talked about their teamwork, and we know that she does a lot to do with finding the lineups, making sure all the players are practicing what they're supposed to be practicing, etc. They've definitely got a system, and clearly it works.
Yeah, even looking at how the players are queued here, if you've been keeping track in stage 1 and notice that it's different kind of who's playing what when, Pathra actually told us that basically every week they switch it up because every player wants to be on camera and wants to actually have the opportunity to play. So it's kind of interesting. Later on, we can maybe discuss how some of the other teams have been approaching, who plays what and at what point in the queue. But Pathra just makes sure everybody's happy, everybody gets to be on camera.
She even said to me, if a player doesn't get to play, then they get that player to do the interview.
Yeah.
Because all of the players want their exposure.
But it's good. It's, in a team format, there's so many small nuanced things that come down to just, human nature, right? Like people are performing better. They're happier to be a part of a group when everyone's kind of getting a fair share, everyone's getting equal treatment. And I mean, it seems like a small thing when you watch the Hearthstone Championship Tour where people are playing alone, but the team element just introduces so many different dynamics. And it's really interesting to watch how all these different teams kind of navigate this.
Another thing Pathra said to me, which I thought was quite interesting, is that she's kind of wary of the teams that are less well known, like Hungary. Like with the bigger teams, like she can watch their streams, she can find out what they've been playing, etc. They can really research them. But these lesser known teams who are, there is much a mystery to them as they are to us. So she's very cautious and she doesn't want to underestimate any of them.
Right, it's not even necessarily something where you're thinking, I don't know the team as well, I don't know what they're going to bring. It's also something players have tendencies. You have players who are certainly less likely in situations to trade and value. Going back to that match, Ting Tong pushing 6 damage, there are a number of players there who would have started making more trades with the 6 damage. So that's something you can know just through competing against certain players where when you have these question marks, you don't know their style of play, and there are very noticeable differences in tells.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at now the next matchup we've got coming up, it's going to be the Warrior and the Shaman. Once again, I'd expect the Aggro Warrior and the Evolved Shaman. I think that's pretty much what we see nowadays. I guess the Warrior could be either, really.
Well, the Quest Warrior has largely petered out. We saw it was like really prevalent in the beginning of Journey to Un'Goro. The problem with the deck, though, is obviously Pirate Warrior just has explosive draws where it just kills you.
Yeah.
There is no time for games, like you just die. Whereas Quest Warrior has a very linear condition, and you know it. You know it through and through at this point, so it's a little bit less like raw power. Certainly when it gets to the late game, the Ragnar's Hero Power is certainly incredibly strong, but I do think it is the less powerful of the decks, but it certainly has matchups where it does shine, so you kind of have to look like, what am I expecting to run into this week based on tournament meta, ladder meta?
Well, players are liking it a lot in their tournament lineups.
Yeah.
As again, looking at DreamHack, 4 of the top 16 players were bringing Taunt Warrior, 3 were bringing Pirate Warrior. So it was still slightly more popular. As we see, XR is going to be bringing the Quest Warrior, going to want to stabilize this board as early as possible to win this game. Needs to play around Bloodlust constantly.
There are a lot of effects, though, that deal 1s or 2s of damage to wide boards. So this is certainly an area where the Quest Warrior can prosper.
Right.
Yeah, you just play down a Ravaging Ghoul, you play down a Sleep with the Fishes. You are just constantly checking the board, and since that Shaman deck, again, has to win through the board, it even comes down to, if you have the Doppelgangster Evolve turn, it's Brawl.
Yeah. I mean, due to the nature of the Ragnar's Hero Power, how random it is, you need to keep your opponent's board nice and small.
Yeah.
So the deck is built in a way where there are so many board clears. As you said, Ravaging Ghoul, Sleep with the Fishes, Brawls, etc., Primordial Drake.
Right. That said, getting to the late game, if the Shaman is allowed to have a wide board, if you expend both Brawls, that hero power is basically sum 0 against what a Shaman wants to do in this deck, which is just have 7 minions on the board all the time.
And I think one of the real strengths of this Shaman deck as well is that it's able to just not overextend ever. It can just put enough on the board and leave enough on the board. So, yep, brawl me, okay, sure. Then I'll put more stuff on the board, just enough.
Right.
And then you can brawl me again. Primal Fin Totem, one of the strongest cards at doing that.
Right, it's certainly, we talked about how many sweeps the Quest Warrior has, but there's certainly just it's a very intricate dance when it actually comes to the interaction points, because the Warrior has to be very careful in how the resources are leveraged.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have a ton of card draw. It's not like Patron Warrior in old days where it's just, well, I'm just drawing like 1 million cards and I'm basically a Miracle Rogue, see you later.
Well, it's funny that you should call it a dance, because the Control Warriors of old versus the mid-range Shaman of old, they also had that dance. Like, how much do I put on the board? Do I put this Mana Tide Totem down? Will that encourage the Brawl? Then I can put Thunderbluff Valiant down, etc. So
a lot has to do with the hero power for the Shaman. The fact that you're generally putting down minions that have an 0-2 stat line. Ravaging Ghoul can't just straight up destroy them. And it's pretty much like, will you brawl this board?
Right.
Will you brawl this board? Like, this brawl's too hot, or this board's too hot. This board's too cold. This board is just right for a brawl.
And look at that, turn 1. New Zealand just going to go ahead and put down a Taunt Totem. They've got the Bloodsail Corsair in hand, opting to do this instead. Maybe saving the Corsair so that they can use it on a weapon. It is risky, because there is now the chance that they draw patches. But I like this a lot.
Well, okay, and I never want to commit the cardinal caster sin of saying, yeah, playing patches for mana is good. But at least in this deck, you have Flame Tongue Totem, so there is upside. There are a couple of edge situations where, Cold Blood for rogues, suddenly patches isn't that bad. Like, sometimes a Stone Tusk board just gets work done in the right situation. But yeah, generally, you don't want to have to actually pay mana for your patches.
But ultimately, in this case, it's worth the risk. And, yep, New Zealand going to be rewarded, as they can now, if they want to, drop the Bloodsail Corsair to get rid of that Fiery War Axe. I'm losing my I'm turning into Lorinda here. That being...
You hate to see that.
Yeah, a little bit early in my life for that. That being said, he won't have a way of filling out his mana. Like, Bloodsail Corsair would be the whole turn.
I don't hate the Bloodsail Corsair. The thing about weapon destruction in this matchup is you don't really go fast enough to where weapon destruction is just a huge pain point for the Warrior.
Yeah.
It's more just an inconvenience.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think using the Bloodsail Corsair right now is really that powerful. I think you're going to have plenty of times later on where you can just destroy a weapon. And it might even be a situation where if patches still hasn't been drawn later on, maybe you want to play like Bloodsail Corsair Bloodlust or something. There's just more flexibility with what you can do with that Corsair than you feel you need to destroy that second charge of the Fiery War Axe.
And I just think it's so important for this deck to kind of stick with the curve as well, use the mana really efficiently. Oh, there's the patches. So
There's that punish.
kind of the punish there. Look at Flame Lord. Flame Lord just freaking out a bit there.
Flame Lord is so upset he is vacated from his classically amazing posture. He's slumped a little.
Look at that.
No.
Properly face palmed there.
I mean, this is Hearthstone in 2017. You draw your patches, and it's just like, why? I mean, good luck. I tried. Where's the concede button? Like, how do I get out of this? Jokes aside, obviously drawing the patches, as we said, is not necessarily as damning as the Shaman.
But now they may be... I think this would have been the Blood Cell Corsair turn had they not drawn the patches, because they can play it on curve as well. They can play the Jade Claws. Now he's drawn it. He may prefer a Mana Tide Totem. Well, no, Mana Tide's too weak because of the Fiery Works there.
Well,
Jade Claws, I guess.
you generally want to get multiple draws off the Mana Tide Totem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to your point, you want to hold that. There are situations where it feels okay to just cycle one card, but yeah. I mean, at least you get the Taunt Totem. I think the Taunt Totem is pretty much always what you're looking for.
It was a good one for sure, because the Stonehill Defender does nothing now. If patches were still in the deck, then the Blood Cell Corsair plus Jade Claws would have given New Zealand enough damage to deal with the Stonehill Defender.
Sure.
So,
Well, now Hungary knows. Patches is in the hand. They've won.
Yeah.
Over.
Well, they've won that game at least. They've,
GG.
as far as they're concerned, at least Flame Lord is going to be a little bit tilted. So Jade Lightning has to be a consideration here, I think.
Anytime it's turn 4 as the Shaman and you have Jade Lightning, I think Jade Lightning is almost always the consideration. It would allow them to get through the Bloodhoof Brave. Exactly. It makes a minion. It just keeps the general idea of, I want you not on the board and I want to be on the board.
It only makes a 1-1, however. There is the second Jade Lightning in hand. There's the Jade Claws. So these Jades are going to start ramping up very soon. Also worth noting the thing from below, because of all these hero power turns, that's getting nice and cheap.
Yeah, it's going to get even cheaper, I think, before it gets played. It's if you can just get more value by making it cost less, why not? Yeah, I think I want to see the Jade Lightning here. Just go ahead and put it into the Bloodhoof Brave. That's, I think, what I would do in this situation. But
Flame Lord committing to playing his hero power almost every single turn, though. What we talked about earlier about how the Shaman can kind of commit but not overcommit.
Right.
Flame Lord's working really hard to do that.
No, he's really squeezing every bit of value because he got that healing totem. He's saying, okay, I can get some value trades on the Stonehill Defender. So, yeah, I definitely don't like this or dislike this either. I think there are a lot of different ways you can kind of navigate these kinds of turns in the early going, and Flame Lord just kind of putting his standard in the sand and saying, okay, I'm really playing for the value here.
Flame Lord has a lot of experience with Hearthstone as well. He's played in the New Zealand qualifiers for the World Championship. He's been playing since Naxxramas came out, which is quite a long time. It's not quite as long as some of the players we've seen, but that's a good few years now.
Okay, so I kind of want to just take a look at this now. The weapon is equipped. If you had played Jade Lightning, you would have dealt with the Bloodhoof Brave, which is now going to probably just sit there for a little bit and just pick off minions, unless you choose a Jade Lightning and on the next turn. I'm trying to think if there was like any necessarily like drawback to the Jade Lightning, or if this you just get to keep the Jade Lightning now and use it later. That was certainly one of those turns that I actually think is like really difficult to navigate. What is the best overall option there? There's so much you could have done.
It'll be good to look back at that later for sure. But now Tark Reaper comes down. Jade Lightning plus the minion can deal with the Tark Reaper. Jade Lightning plus the weapon can deal with the Bloodhoof Bray. It's worked out okay. When is Flame Lord going to want to use these devolves?
That's the point I was going to bring up. That devolve only gets worse as the game goes on, because
right now that's a lot of value, isn't it? That 4-mana card is going to lose a lot of health when it becomes a 3-mana card.
Yeah.
Tark Reaper too. Like I said, a lot of 2-drops have 1 health.
Could become Mukla, and then it's just, 3-mana 5/5. Still lose a little bit of health.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I've never seen a minion get devolved into a Mukla.
I don't think I have either. I think it's just on my, like, I have a sign hanging up in my desk. It's like worst case scenarios.
Right.
In case of emergency.
Just study those every day.
Yeah.
And, make sure you don't devolve at the wrong time.
That is actually one of my favorite things about, effects like Firelands, Portal, Devolve, all the wonky opportunities there are for just crazy stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Like the Millhouse Manastorm or the Doomsayers. It's fun now. It was less fun in the Shredder days. But
yeah, I agree. All right, gonna actually start to throw some stuff down on the board. I was wondering if the thing from below would be saved until after the first brawl or after the first board clear, but no, Flame Lord going to do his best to protect this Mana Tide Totem.
Yeah, and from what he can see, this does actually just protect the Mana Tide Totem, at least on board. You'd have to expect if the Warrior really wanted that Mana Tide Totem dead, the Mana Tide Totem would be dead for what the Warrior is generally bringing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Warrior's only on 4 cards, so.
Two of them are
You're
execute,
generating
though.
value.
One of them is Brawl. It's going to be able to make short work of this board if Exile wants to. I think this thing from below is worthy of an execute.
I mean, in terms of overall big things you're going to see in this deck, it's pretty much Thing from Below, Stonehill Defender, Might Net, and Alakir.
Yep.
Maybe a White Eyes and Earth Elemental.
And then anything that comes from Evolve.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. I like
the
this
Mana
play a
Tide
lot.
Totem, because you can't have the Shaman just generating resources
No.
and just going off, because you're starting to run low on resources, and as I mentioned earlier, there isn't like a ton of card draw in this deck. I think it's Battle Rage, maybe 1 to 2 Acolytes of Pain, depending on the list.
Yeah.
Shield Block is in there as well, but
Shield Block, I think, is even itself less common these days, as Shield Slam doesn't see any play either. The Warrior's resources typically are a much higher value than the Shaman's, but he still needs to keep the Shaman off the board because things like Flame Tongue Totem can make such a difference. And oh my! Shadow Rager, probably the best Rager card we've got in Hearthstone, I think, at the moment.
I think it's the if you were stranded on an island with one Rager, you're probably looking at Shadow Rager and you're like, I mean, get on the boat, I guess. Let's go.
I wouldn't trust him.
Really?
No.
Because shadowy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair.
If that was a Magma Rage, just look at the difference. If that was a Magma Rage, the 1/1 would just trade straight into
Every single video game I've ever played has taught me the shadowy thing is the bad thing. That's
Yeah,
usually,
exactly.
That's usually the villain.
It's probably a really nice guy, but I don't trust him.
All right, well, it's going to be Shadowy Rager versus the world.
Flame Lord doesn't trust him either. Going to stick up a Taunt Totem there just to try and protect himself. As Exar has to start considering this Brawl, but this board is just a board of nothing.
It is, but that's often going to be the scenario, I think, in this matchup. You are just going to be staring at these boards of nothing and be like, do I have to do this?
Look at that. Shadow Rager actually trading into the Taunt Totem.
Well, just getting stuff off the board against the Shaman is just better because you're not having to commit any kind of board sweep, and that's mostly what you want. Ah,
That's a draw.
that is a draw.
With Maelstrom Portal, sorry, with Jade Lightning as well.
Yep.
That Maelstrom Portal is going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, just keep cluttering up that board, clearing off the Warrior's board. Again, the Warrior is on increasingly fewer resources, so.
This probably baits out the Brawl as well. Maelstrom Portal plus Jade Lightning. You've got a lot of minions on the board there. That Bloodlust is looking nasty.
Yeah, it's a situation where it probably does bait out the Brawl, but I don't know that Flame Lord is like super excited about it. There are certain times where you go to bait out a Brawl and you're like, play it, idiot, play it. Like you've got the reload ready to go, but the reload on this board is not particularly tasty. So it's
okay as long as Hungary can't make anything himself stick to the board, because just a Primal Fin Totem on its own, it does do work eventually.
Yeah, no, it'll absolutely get there over time, but in the short term, it's not like the crazy reload you'd have, say, as like an Elemental Shaman, where you have stuff off of Servant of Kalamos.
And you're not coming back with like Doppelgangster Evolve right here, I guess.
That's kind of what you'd want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the perfect turn.
After a Brawl, yeah.
All right, so this is actually really nice because of the Ravaging Ghoul.
Yeah, XR doing a great job of just preserving the Brawl here. Healing Totem going to do a little bit of work, but actually the fact that it only leaves 2 minions alive that's a great board clear.
No, it is. If you had Brawled, it really wouldn't have probably been much better at all, so yeah. Flame Tongue Totem would allow him to deal with the Ravaging Ghoul, at least on board if he wanted to.
We're going to get the Flame Tongue Totem patch stream soon as well.
Yeah. What do you think about just using the Jade Lightning here just to go ahead and get another minion on the board, remove a minion, and help preserve a board? You don't have a ton of minions necessarily.
If you do that, I think you just Hero Power as well.
Yeah.
Like you either do that or maybe Flame Tongue Primal Fin. No, I think even that's overcommitting.
Because Jade Lightning, certainly there are certain matchups where you say, okay, I'm going to get a ton of value out of just destroying a minion and playing a minion here, but the window where you're going to just be able to destroy a minion that the Warrior plays in this matchup is pretty much already closed.
Right. Yeah, Flame Lord needs to start picking up some high-value stuff soon, though. Like, there's got to be an Aya somewhere in his deck. We haven't seen a Doppelgangster yet. We haven't seen an Evolve yet. There should be a second Mana Tide Totem somewhere.
All right, so 3/3 Jade Golem and just make the Primal Fin Totem. This is actually committing a fair bit now. The reload here is pretty non-existent. You essentially have Hero Power, Flame Tongue patches.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this play, but that might be because I can see the Brawl there in Exar's hand. He may think that because his opponent made that Slam Ravaging Ghoul turn, maybe he thinks that if there was a Brawl in Exile's hand, he would have played it.
I'm a fan of all of that turn except the Primal Fin Totem. That's the other thing is I think the Primal Fin Totem is just maybe a little overcommit.
Yeah.
But again, we can see the Brawl there, so obviously that's like we know the Brawl could potentially come out, and then there's just not much Flame Lord can do to reset it.
But then things going the other, like mind games going the other way. Maybe Hungary thinks he's trying to bait out the Brawl. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, this brinksmanship is such an all-important skill in this matchup because it's pretty much a who blinks first sort of thing. Devolve here could actually get a fair bit of value because otherwise that 2/7 just going to chew up the board.
If there was a Bloodlust in hand as well, we'd be getting close to lethal.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out too, Exile getting close to finishing the quest. He's still kind of in a situation where the board's wide, but he does have that Brawl, so he could just look to reset it, activate the quest soon. This is pretty solid here. I actually, if I'm Flame Lord and I'm playing this game on ladder, I think I would actually just commit the Flame Tongue Totem here and just start getting the value and just go because...
Oh, I don't know.
2 cards in hand, if it's not Brawl, you're in such a good position to push damage even without a Bloodlust.
I mean, you might think there isn't a Brawl because of that previous turn.
Yeah, I think I'm getting like a slight read. I'm like, if it's there, okay. But I'm starting to feel more and more okay because Flame Tongue Totem here I think just represents so much value in terms of what you get.
I don't know, it's so hard.
You put that 1/1 Murloc into the Dread Corsair. You put the Healing Totem into the Crab.
Yeah. I think as Flame Lord, he's probably got a little bit of time. So he doesn't need, like, he can just trade the 3/3 in.
Sure.
And then put the 2/2 into the Crab. Gonna do it a slightly different way, sure, okay.
No, this is fine too. Like I said, it's a temptation I personally would have felt.
Yeah.
But I also understand like the need for restraint because again, your reload is so bad and you're still going pretty wide on the board. So
You're completely controlling the board at this stage as New Zealand. You just don't need to commit the Flame Tongue Totem yet, I feel. And now Hungary picks up the Harrison Jones. There's no J-Claws in sight. That's not going to do much. Brawl is your only option, or just pass. And what's Bloodlust doing here? 22 damage, 23, 24 with Flame Tongue, 25, 26, 27 with patches. Not quite lethal then.
That's an excellent point. Exare does know one of the cards in hand for Flame Lord's patches. If the team, I assume someone on Hungary's team is charged with keeping track of stuff like that. You know, in other matches, hey, what is the glyph card, blah, blah, blah. I would assume somebody is aware that that is patches.
So,
you know that the reload consists of at least 1 patches, so maybe you feel like, okay, the rest of this stuff, unless it's like Doppelgangster Evolve, probably not that good.
I just think, I just think Hungary has to Brawl now. I'm surprised he didn't Brawl sooner. Healing Totem survives. That's really good for Exile. If the Primal Fin Totem had survived, that would have been a bit of a disaster. Stonehill Defender, though, there's your reload.
Yeah, that is pretty much exactly what you want to see. And I like the Harrison coming down, too. I believe he's only seen 1 Jade Claws.
He has, yeah.
But it's one of those situations where you don't really... I don't think you can afford to wait around. Now that you don't have a Brawl, you have no board sweep. You just have the Execute, which can't even do anything at the moment, to just go ahead and get a minion down to start contesting things.
I like this a lot too, just going for the biggest guy. Like, you actually do want value now. You want to stick some things on the board, but you also want to try and hold on to some value in hand. So, Infestator and Hero Power looks kind of like a safe bet, but it doesn't do anything about the Harrison.
I mean, you can use Flame Tongue Totem, Patches, and the Healing Totem to get rid of the Harrison there if you choose to.
For a second, that scared me. I thought I went on the left.
That was a pretty not like this moment.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, gonna do what you said. Use the patches, get rid of it.
Yeah, then you can, I mean, you have a pretty decent board there for your opponent on 1 card. And
I think I liked the hero power though. But you've got Flame Tongue up. Why put something else on the board? And why reveal what it is as well?
No, it's true. You're giving your opponent information.
Yeah.
All right, the Acolyte of Pain coming down. It's just going to be a 1-card cycle, more than likely. But yeah, it's just time to rebuild this board. We have the technology. Let's just keep playing small minions and draw Bloodlust at some point.
As long as that Flame Tongue Totem survives, this board is always going to be powerful, even without the Bloodlust.
Wow, and this also protects him from the Execute. Not that the Execute, realistically, was super attractive here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exile not looking too happy at the moment. He knows he needs to pick up something pretty soon. Even Primordial Drake is looking like it just won't be enough against this board.
Yeah, Armorsmith definitely not. Yeah. I mean, this is really, as you said earlier, this is kind of the dynamic of Shaman and Warrior all throughout the ages. There are just certain matchups that, regardless of kind of what year it is, you always just look at it and you know the Shaman has the Shaman hero power.
Yeah.
So the Warrior just inherently has issues with resource generation to continuously clear the board.
Yeah, the Shaman gets a free minion on the board every turn. Firefly just proving again why it's such a good card. It can just make this board huge. I wonder if XR is going to start to think that Bloodsail Corsair is a Bloodlust.
I mean, it is the one card that's just been in there a while. You saw the Flame Elemental was drawn off the top, and then it was played. So wouldn't it stand to reason that a Bloodsail Corsair might have just been played by now?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're just playing around that one card. Ooh, Sleep with the Fish is pretty dead draw there.
Doesn't do anything, does it?
Yeah.
27 damage with Bloodlust, by the way, here on this board. So
Yep.
armoring up puts Hungary just out of range. Though if there was a Bloodlust here, I think the game would be over in 2 turns anyway.
Double Bloodlust is what he's obviously afraid of. Oh, okay, so, wow, neither of the Shaman decks thus far we've seen today have been able to get that evolve.
Yeah.
This is just, to Flame Lord's benefit, this is just one of those matchups that, as we keep talking about, it's just very heavily like scripted and kind of on the rails.
Yeah.
In terms of what the Shaman is doing.
Well, it's one of the reasons the deck is good now is that it can win even without the evolve. Like, it can just do this over and over again.
Against certain decks.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of other decks are more proactive.
But I wonder if that will have given Hungary the message that there's no Bloodlust there. Oh my goodness, a second Sleep with the Fishes! What a disaster!
Hungary's like, come on, man. Come on. Well, let me activate this. They're taking it in good stride, and that's actually one of those things where it's things are so bad you can kind of laugh.
A Whirlwind, a second Ravaging Ghoul, a Primordial Drake, any of these cards would almost completely clear the board. Well, clear everything except for the slime that comes from the Infestatorian.
Yeah, it's two issues here compounding upon each other. One, Hungary has no card draw, and two, Sleep with the Fish is a really good card, needs that activator though.
Well, that's going to do it. That's going to be the lethal. Flame Lords and New Zealand going to take the series away from Hungary with a very decisive 3-1 win. What a way to start stage 2.
All right, it's a little cheeky exchange going on there, but New Zealand going to continue their winning ways. Start off stage 2 with a win. Again, there's only 3 rounds in stage 2, so this is certainly getting 1 win.
Yeah.
It's just actually like a really big deal, unlike in stage 1.
Yeah, it's not like the first week of stage 1 of the tournament where like you get a win, it's like, great, okay, that's a start. This is a huge leap towards the top 16 spot. So New Zealand going to be feeling very good about themselves right now.
Yeah, no, and they're a team that it seems like every week they get a little bit better in terms of the communication, the preparation. They are actually just coming together as a cohesive unit. So it's awesome to see them continue to have the success in stage 2.
Pathra didn't get to play, so I wonder if that means we'll get to talk to her in the interview.
I assume, and then Pathra can confirm that I was the one who actually asked for the questions and you just straight up copy-pasted my answers, but... Yeah.
She actually did send me my own answers first, and then she said, oh yeah, I spoke to Rob too, here are the answers I gave him as
just
well.
copy-pasted.
So, and that part was just sheer copy-paste. Right, well, we're going to be having a chat with Slayer Max, as it happens. Hey, Slayer Max, congratulations on being the first team to win.
Flame Lord.
Oh, Flame Lord. No, oh, no, it's still image. Oh, hello? Can you hear me? New Zealand. We got nothing going on here. We got nothing going on. All right, hopefully we'll get to do the interview in a moment.
All right, I was going to say, I was actually going to start being Flame Lord.
Oh, we had him for a second.
I was going to start talking about making totems. Yeah.
I'm guessing that we'll have a look at some highlights now and maybe come back to the interview in a minute. What was your favorite thing that you saw in that series, Rob?
I really think the way Flame Lord actually just approached that matchup and how value-oriented he was certainly something to where I think, you know, some of the plays I was even suggesting was frankly just jumping the gun a little bit in terms of how many resources you were committing.
Right.
He was very diligent and then kind of made the read that second brawl was just nowhere to be seen. There was no second board sweep, so he just like basically was like, okay, I'm just going to play for the Bloodlust win now. Yeah.
I did question his plays a few times. We both did, but it worked out very, very nicely, and he played around things nicely.
We shouldn't be questioning people's plays, let's be real. We're like rank 18 cast.
I felt sorry for Team Hungary because any Whirlwind effect would have just swung that game dramatically back into their favor. Maybe it would have won them the game.
Yeah, and we have to look back, but I don't think the way they used the Ravaging Ghoul or the Brawl was inherently wrong. Like, I think they never drew the cards, and that's what that deck kind of suffers from right now, there just isn't a ton of card draw. So if you are playing against a board-centric deck that's just constantly generating threat, you have to honor the possibility of that Bloodlust.
Yeah, you're right. So I feel a little bit bad for Hungary. It does happen.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can lose just based off of bad draws alone. That is some of the risks of playing competitive Hearthstone. But ultimately, New Zealand didn't just win that one game. It wasn't a close 3-2. They decisively took the entire series anyway. With this huge board of Murlocs here, these tokens are so powerful.
That is one of those situations, too, where, you know, you talk about Hungary just frankly getting a bit unlucky. You know, I actually really liked how they played both Evolves in that matchup.
Yeah.
And it just happened that the Evolve was never there. The Bloodlust came at the very end. So really what that deck needed to do to win against the aggressive Paladin deck, it just never actually materialized. And, you know, that was a situation where we look at what was the difference between those Shaman decks. The Shaman in the New Zealand match was able to stay on the board and get Bloodlust, which is the win condition. Unfortunately, Hungary was not so fortunate in their matchup.
It is pretty funny that there was no Evolve. Just at all today.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't run Evolve. No, they definitely run Evolve.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk back in the day, do you even need to run Evolve?
Right.
I mean, I think if you're running Doppelgangster,
Yeah.
you're running Evolve. Otherwise, I think you're just fine to cut it.
Yeah.
I mean, it works to the Bloodlust win condition, but yeah, this was very decisive from New Zealand. And
sadly for Exer, he just gets his blood. They just get that Bloodlust before any Whirlwind effect gets picked up.
I really appreciated the Team Hungary response to second sleep with the fishes off the top of the deck into the healing totem.
Yeah.
That's kind of like...
Yeah, they just didn't let that happen.
It was like an old MacGyver episode. It was like, here's 2 sleep with the fishes and an execute. Build a game win. It's like, they have a healing totem.
Yeah, there are a lot of face palms going on in that series. Right, I believe now we're going to have a chat with Slayer Max. Hey, Slayer Max, congratulations on being the first team to win in Stage 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games. How are New Zealand feeling right now?
Just glowing, eh? Wow, we're so stoked. We work hard for these, so we like to watch the game straight after and just you know, let it simmer for a little while, as long as we can.
Yeah, it must feel good because there are a lot less games in Stage 2 of the tournament. Do you feel good right now about your chances of getting through to the top 16? Are you thinking about that yet?
Yeah, well, you know, the fact that we can 3-0 Russia, who are, you know, the favorites, and they had the world champion and some amazing players on the team, we kind of feel like if we can do that, we can beat any team in the tournament. You know, that's really pumped us up.
I'm a little bit curious now. Obviously, you guys faced off against Australia in Stage 1, and you did win the first ever Australia-New Zealand Bowl. Since you guys advanced and they did not, have they kind of reached out to you to offer any kind of support now that you're kind of carrying the weight of ANZ?
That's a good question. We should probably think about doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if we could put the egos aside and work together for the benefit of us all, that would be nice.
Could potentially have some new practice partners there off the back of HGG. Congratulations one more time, Slayer Max. Thank you so much for your time. Go and celebrate your win. We'll see you. See you next week.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear teams be excited about this. You know, a lot of times in pro Hearthstone culture, it's like really kind of downplayed how exciting it is just to win a series. But a lot of the players for HGG have been really excited about having the opportunity to not only play and compete, but also represent their country, which is pretty awesome.
Slayer Max seemed like a very chill guy, very relaxed, got the win, feeling good. I like it. Let's take one last look at Group D. Already there with a 1-0, 3-0 game record. New Zealand looking good. Hungary going to have a lot of work to do to catch up.
Yeah, this is actually a low-key and extremely competitive team, I feel like, you know. Especially Brazil, Taiwan, New Zealand. These are 3 teams which are all kind of earmarked now to advance. Hungary, I certainly think is a very respectable team, and they've got work to do. But in general, I think that team is going to be that group, extremely competitive.
Brazil is Cora's pick as well. Yep. So a lot of stakes there among us casters as well. We are going to go to a short break, but we'll be back very soon with, I believe it's Singapore versus Malaysia. So coming right up.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.